Hello everyone and welcome to this new video tutorial, Photoshop tools, and today we'll be looking at the object selection tool, quick selection tool, and magic wand tool. The shortcut is W. So right here we have our new tool, which is the object selection tool right now. And for the object selection tool I went with this image that is made out of a bottle of wine and a glass of wine because it's a very good example of where to use this tool. So if I go with my object selection tool here, all I have to do, and I'd like just to get my bottle selected, I'm not going to go with the lasso, I'm not going to go with all of that because I have again an easier tool. So which selection tool to use depends on what you're trying to do. So right here what I'm going to do is that I'm going to start drawing with my selection tool over my bottle, and as soon as it's closed you see that I got the full selection of my bottle without even having an accurate edge. Working the various tools is about after that coming probably here and maybe get my lasso tool, hold shift and select the missing part. I see that I have a few vertices, pixels missing on the bottom. So I have my bottle selected, and let's try again to work with our object selection tool. It's a lasso mode. You can have it into rectangle mode. I rather work with lasso. And let's come over here, hold shift, and let's try to select now our glass of wine. Up, and very quickly we have our glass again. So working with various tools, I go get myself my lasso tool that you'll learn to use in the previous video. Holding shift, I'll come over and grab the missing part, and holding alt I will basically remove the ones that I don't need. I'll go with shift and add a little bit here. Let's zoom closer, let's get closer. Alright, that looks much better. So let's go back to my lasso tool. I will hold alt and just remove this part here. Hold shift, add this one so I can get the nice curve. Alt here, I'm going to hold shift and come over and get this nice and smooth corner around here, and I will go with alt now, and I will basically remove the bottom of my selection, maybe a little bit more of a curve here, and maybe I go after that to my polygonal lasso, hold shift to be able to do a perfectly straight line here. So again, you use the proper tool according to your needs. So I've added this, let's hold shift so I can add this part of specular. And if I zoom out, I'll have a pretty smooth selection of my two objects that I was able to do extremely quickly. If I go to another type of image and I still use my object selection tool, for example here it will be a little harder because the colors are more mixed. This is an oil paint and that's why I showed the initial example here. But right now what I'd like to do here, if I go with my object selection and decide to select the mirror, it's going to be pretty easy because I have a solid contrast between the mirror colors and tones versus the wall and our character, and look, suddenly I have an amazing selection. I can do that just for the interior, for example. So let's click in an empty area. Let's say I would like to select this painting, not the mirror, and boom, I have it very quickly, so I can mask it without spending a lot of time working on my image. Now the next one, we'll use it on this image again, which is the quick selection tool. The quick selection tool can do the job in various situations. So if I come over here and take a look at this one, let me just click in an empty area so I can just select everything, and I go with my quick selection tool. It did a pretty good job very quickly because it will recognize an edge. If I go with this type of painting here and I go with my quick selection tool, let me decrease the size of my brush here and I'm actually pressing Alt and left mouse button. So if I go with my quick selection tool and I just go paint over this, I'm able to get again very nice selection very quickly. So it's going to do, it will create a selection that will snap again over an edge and depending on the contrast that you have in hands, which means if I try to go too far it will select that extra object. So then I go with Alt and let me release that whole part at the bottom, and my quick selection tool did a pretty good job. Now if I use this on the female dress here, that would be much more interesting, because look what's going to happen. I can go straight towards the parts that I'd like to keep. So I already have my base selection. I have something to begin with, and after that I can clean my work and use various other selection tools that I have in hand. So let me go grab the rest of her dress here. Let's hold shift and add it, and I'm kind of painting, no more than that, just like this. And I have a pretty nice neat selection of the dress as well as the mirror that I had in the background. Now let's hit some Control Z's here, click in an empty area so we can deselect everything, and let's go to our next tool. The next one is the magic wand. The magic wand is basically going to work on the color itself, and what's going to change there is using your tolerance. So I have a tolerance of 30% on my brush. I'll come over here, just click here, and it will select everything that is inside the same color, but it becomes a little bit more, it will require, a little bit more adjustments if your colors are ton sur ton or the same tones, because the system is not going to be that accurate, and then at that time you'll have to use obviously another type of tool. Now I'm holding shift and using the magic wand, I'm just going to every single piece that I'd like to select and fit actually with the colors I'm working with. Right here, let me go grab that little point, and then I'm going to get the missing little details here. Oops. And as soon as I get to a closer contrast, it becomes an issue. So let's clean this little tiny area. Let me clean this one. H for the hand tool, and W for my magic wand. Zoom out. Let's come over here. And let's go get my tool, hold shift, and here's everything that I basically need to be able to begin working with my shoe selections. So if I keep my selection like this and hold delete, there we go. I use my magic wand to get the colors that I need. Thank you very much for following, and see you for the next video.